Yo, welcome everyone to Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journey that founders take. The conversation doesn't stop here. If you want to stay one step ahead and unlock access to exclusive insights, thought-provoking summaries of our latest episodes, and a curated collection of valuable resources from across the web, don't miss out on the Ammo monthly newsletter. Sign up in the show notes. This episode, we're really grateful to have Brad Dessington, who's the director of Legion Labs, which is a brand innovation lab based here in Australia, but also the founder of many other really interesting businesses over the years, which we'll get into the story of. And so this is a guy who's been at the leading edge of brand and tech, that really nice crossover, which is awesome for tech founders and our Weird Growth audience to have a listen to. So welcome, Brad. Thanks so much for being on Weird Growth.
Thank you for having me.
Please introduce yourself and how have you come to do what you do?
I'd introduce myself to people. I'd probably say I'm a perpetual student of business, really.
Nice.
I think what I've found is my businesses have all been very different in themselves.
Yep.
So constantly learning on the fly. I'd like to say I'm an expert in maybe one area and very much a student in all the other areas of the businesses that I've created and sold, yeah.
So one of the first businesses that you founded was Rogue Brand Agency in South Africa.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point where you founded a brand agency?
I went through probably what you'd call my dues. I earned my stripes at the big ad agencies, and then I focused a little bit more into more brand consultancies, which is more aligned to business strategy as opposed to just pure marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
I ended up being head of strategy for a company called Chemistry. And I got to the point where they wanted me to be MD. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I thought I'd just do it myself.
Nice. Love it.
And I was lucky enough to find a couple of angel investors.
Okay.
And we had an interesting deal with them in so much that they needed something from me. They needed things done on their various brands. They are very successful business people in their own right. And they probably get a good deal out of the idea of investing in a business that would give them a decent rate for what they needed, but at the same time help kickstart the business and hopefully make some money in the long term for themselves. So it was a bit of a mixed mash. We had a 20% shareholder, and then we had 4-5% shareholders, and then I ended up owning the 60% to keep my motivation going.
Nice.
And I managed to grow that business over a period of time and buy them out as I was able to.
Yep.
Interesting business. It's what you would probably call a traditional brand consultancy. We were very much a rogue agency. We were very much on the outskirts of what would be the pure brand agencies as well as a bit of the ad agencies, and we kind of dabbled in between and did some really good work. Really in between all of that. So we grew and. It became a good success story. I'm quite comfortable to say that we were one of the happiest agencies in South Africa. Really good team, really good learnings from that company.
Yeah,
especially being a service consulting type business. It's really all about the people. And I think the biggest part of that was learning that those types of businesses grow because of the way you look at the people before anything else. So,
absolutely, the product.
Really cool business, that one.
Yeah. So what does it mean? What is, I guess, for people out there who don't really aren't part of this world, what does it mean to be a brand consultancy, and what was the sort of work that you were doing for people?
I think really at its essence, brand consultancies help businesses really understand where their true value lies in the eyes of a consumer or a customer. A lot of business don't really quite understand that. They try and throw everything in the kitchen sink and they kind of miss the point a lot. So brand agencies' predominant role is to package and articulate what that value is, position it in the minds of a consumer and own that in a distinctive, almost their own white space.
Right. Yeah. What's their special, unique position in the consumer's
and to make sure that that's not only true to what the business is at that point in time, but also ambitious enough to drive the business to work towards something.
Okay.
So it's not just statically what the business is today, but where they can go in future, give some inspiration as to how they can grow that white space and make it their own. And then the other component of that is the bringing that to life. It's not just the strategy component, it's the how do you bring that brand to life? I'm not talking about logos. I mean, that's a component of it. It's the entire brand experience, designing it, creating it, delivering it, and making sure that the clients can take that to market and build their client base from that. So our brand agency really looked at skill sets wise, everything from strategy to traditional almost advertising type skill sets to pure brand design skill sets to audio visuals and digital skill sets. That's how I would define it at least.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
like a saying that, I hear around a lot is a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yep.
Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I think the idea of what brand is evolving. I think we've gone through a period where at one point it was just a trademark and it was something that was an identifier of a business.
Yeah, it was the Nike swoosh or whatever.
Yeah. I think then when we moved in the 2000s, it moved to something that was really integral to every part of the business. It was not just about the logo. It was not just about what the business looked like, but it was embedded in the ethos of the business, the personality of the business, the behaviors of staff. It was the driving force behind values and
it was
culture.
The meaning that was attached to those physical artifacts. Yeah.
And now I think as much as it is what you've just described, that's almost an NPS score version of describing a brand the way that you described that. But I think where it's moving to is a space of brands are meaning magnets that are able to change as the market changes. Mm-hmm. And to be able to evolve their meaning to a market and their related value to the market over a period of time. And that comes, this is the culture we live in. We're iterating products. We're developing new digital solutions, new features, et cetera, et cetera. Those brands need to keep up with them. It's no longer can a brand just be the static one singular idea that you hold for the rest of time. And it is ultimately, I guess, in one simple word, it's the relationship between you and the company.
Love that. So a services business, you grew that over 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And then you ended up selling that ultimately to a bigger player. What was that process like?
Well, I think the journey of the business was quite interesting because I had to make a couple of big step changes in my own way that I looked at the business, really. Mm-hmm. We started off with a really small team. In fact, we started off with 2 people. Within a month, we had 3. Within another month, we had 4. And it probably got to the point where we got to about 8 people in the business, and the business was almost plateauing. And everyone was working really hard, and everyone was very skilled, and the business was doing well financially.
Yep.
But a step change needed to happen in my mind as to what actually needs to happen in a people-based business to actually grow it into some type of formidable force in the industry. And that's where my idea of being less conservative around today and more ambitious about tomorrow came in, where I said, to grow this business, let's go really hard on hiring people. Let's get more people in the business, and let's back ourselves that those people are going to be good enough to grow the business in itself. And that step change really meant that we went from a steady growth to quite a steep uptick in what the overall value of the business was.
Yeah, right.
So to the change in mindset and
so did that require you to feel like you were kind of, getting ahead of your skis in a way in that, we've got enough revenue to feed 8 people at the moment.
Yeah.
But if we went and doubled the headcount, then does that feel, scary, or how did you reconcile that?
I think accountants would hate me for this, and it's not really the best financial way to run a business, but I kept the business quite financially flush, got a good runway of about 8 months. everything turned off the lights,
Yep.
I could still pay my staff salaries for 8 months.
Wow.
And at one point I said, yeah, that's all good and well, but let's take a bet on that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hire another 5 people, and then 3 months later another 5 people, and then a year or so later another 5 people, etc. And so we got to a decent amount of people in the business. So at the end of the day, it's, I guess, simply speaking, it's just backing yourself to get to that point of getting a point to where you can sell the business.
Yeah.
You've got enough momentum, you've got enough clients, you've got contracts with clients, you've got a balance sheet that isn't, and a P&L that's attractive. So yeah, that's where we went with that business.
Well done. What came next?
Soul searching. I, during the course of Rogue, came from one of our biggest clients. We had a big multinational English bank that was quite dominant in South Africa, and they would run an ideas program internally, trying to drive ideas amongst staff, and quite difficult when you've got 140,000 staff in the business.
Yep.
And they had various systems to try and manage or collect ideas and try and filter that to the top. And I just thought it was a crazy way to try and manage such a vast amount of data.
Yeah.
So I had the concept of, at the time, the business name at the time was Hello Idea. But it was my first foray into this idea of, I'm going to move into digital products. I'm going to take a step into that. Company ended up being called Nectir. Once I sold Rogue, I had moved straight into moving to Australia.
Yeah.
So a big step, straight into Canberra for the first couple of months that we were here, and ended up architecting and designing that system, the entire platform. And that platform that Nectar and Hello, or at least Hello Idea, and then Nectar became, was an idea management system that used a lot of the thinking that you would have in a social media platform, and took that into a space of how do you make that a way to create thoroughfare for really good ideas in a business to the people that need to make decisions. And then when they do make those decisions, to be able to move that in that same platform into the sprint type thinking.
Change management kind of process.
Yeah, and elements of change management, but really the antithesis to the idea of asking a staff member to spend hours and hours and days developing business cases to take to a board or to their managers to try and get something approved.
Yep.
To something that's a lot more agile, a lot more fluid.
Yeah, incredible.
So that was my foray into that. I did it absolutely the wrong way. I learned what an MVP was halfway through developing a digital product. Now, this is back in 2016. Obviously, MVP had been around for some time. We had designed the entire system over a period of about 8 months, and then we had devved the system over around a period of 9 to 10 months. And it had to be so long because it was a enterprise grade system. So it had to be really rock solid in that sense. And that was a massive learning curve for myself. I just couldn't have fathomed. I probably wouldn't have done it if I had known what it would take to actually get really solid systems working in the cloud at security levels that are just through the roof, and then also selling B2B or these SaaS systems to businesses as opposed to in customers. So awesome learning curve, but I would strongly recommend nobody ever follow the way that we did it, because we were just purely lucky in so much that we designed the system, we released it. Our first release was not even beta, it was directly to a paying client. And we just managed to get it right. Now, again, purely luck. I've done a couple of digital products since, and some of them have flopped and some of them have done well, but I would strongly recommend MVP thinking.
What was the shift like going from running an agency where you're essentially selling services to building a product?
A big learning curve for me. I think the major, more on a personal level, is going from a fairly large leadership position where you're leading quite a big team to leading what is effectively three people in Canberra, 2 people in Argentina, and 1 or 2 people in between. So it was a bit more of management style change. Also, because it was almost entirely virtual, because at the same time I'd moved from Canberra to Perth.
Yep.
Almost did the COVID thing before everyone else did the COVID thing.
Working remote before it was cool.
Yeah, so that was quite a big change. I think in terms of the learning, just deep understanding at the end of this, not at the beginning, of course. As I mentioned, I started, purely designing, but at the end of this, was really sort of deep understanding of how important empathy is in your evaluation of how people see a product, use a product, can use it better. I think empathy is so downplayed in almost every respect in business.
So really putting yourself in the end user's shoes and understanding their jobs to be done and how it fits into their work day. And yeah.
And I think it takes a lot more than just looking over somebody's shoulder and looking at how they might play with your system.
Yep.
Spending a lot of time to understand what level of value you're actually creating versus are you just trying to teach somebody or trying to onboard somebody or trying to get somebody to use a system.
Yeah.
It's far more than just the change management process. So,
Yep.
So empathy in product design for me is absolutely number one, and every human design centered thinking or design thinking process will tell you that. Yeah.
So again, you built up that business, a good client base, a nice end product that you created, had that in the market. Did you sell that, or is that something you still have?
Yeah. I sold that business. I had a co-partner in that business, and that ended up being a partner buyout. I had other ideas of. I to a certain degree, I missed being on the forefront of doing the conceptual innovation myself.
Yeah, right.
I liked almost that pressure of conceptualizing something that hasn't come to your mind just yet. And I think the business got to a point where it was in a really good space, and it's led by a fantastic team in the Mark agency in Canberra right now, and they're doing some awesome things with it. I needed to get back almost to the forefront of innovation and sort of get that
building
going.
new things from the scratch.
Yeah, I hate to say,
I
almost got. I wouldn't say I got bored with it. I just got to a point where it was such a thorough system that I thought I needed to jump back into the forefront.
Yep.
And that led me to the next business,
which was September.
September AI Labs. Yeah, it has been a really interesting business. I've learned so much about artificial intelligence. I took a small gap just to spend some time studying strategy in my background's obviously studying strategy and business, but I took some time to study AI strategy specifically to business. How to apply AI to business strategy.
When did you start studying AI strategy?
Probably did an executive course with MIT for I think it was about 2018.
Way ahead of your time.
Yeah. So anyway, ended up doing that, and had the concept of we were fortunate enough to have a bit of a runway. So it was set up to, I guess, from the public perspective, would have looked more like an AI consultancy, meaning we'd go in and help clients understand AI and then build AI products for them, models and so on. And the reality was that it was 30% that, but the other 70% of that was our own product development, our own initiatives, our own partnerships. We established a partnership with ECU where we developed some really, really cool tech. One of which was we were able to detect circulating cancer tumor cells in the blood, which is really, really important if you can start picking up effectively tiny microscopic 1 in a million blood cells that are cancerous in the blood. It's quite a big deal.
Wow. So really it's about ingesting massive amounts of data feed and trying to make sense of it, or trying to find patterns or irregularities in that.
Yeah, in that case, it was computer vision based. So we would take a whole bunch of imaging. Won't get into the detail, but fluorescent imaging.
Yeah.
And we're able to identify, again, within millions of little specks that all look the same, which one might be a cancer cell and which one might not be, which is really important for the researchers. And in future, is going to be, I think, quite profound when you can start taking a blood test and know that, okay, you've got cancer.
Yeah, incredible.
At a very, very minute level. And then we also did some predictive medicine solutions where I can't speak too much about it, but basically just in late terms, helping predict late-stage melanoma treatment and what needs to go into the concoction, so to speak, that doctors or oncologists use for that.
Yep.
Did all of that, and then we did kids books.
The upset.
Yeah, so Tails Time is something that's still in progress, and I'd love for everybody to go have a look at it. It's very much still a work in progress, and it's still being run by September AI.
Tails Time,
yeah.
Yep.
Go get it on the App Store.
Cool.
Very much MVP, so it's a lot of work still needs to be done, but the concept is really that a parent can sit down with their child, start a story, and then you could say, Jack jumps over the rainbow and finds himself in a field of gold.
Yep.
And the AI will then prompt the rest of the story.
Amazing.
But at the same time, also generate the imagery that goes along with it. So it's a live kids book, basically.
Yeah, very cool.
We conceptualized that before ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And using pretty much the same technology through OpenAI, and then using a number of other techniques that we've built over a period of time for that. We've done that, and then we've also worked with clients to try and find effectively gold under the ground using geophones and a whole bunch of things. So the AI business has been really, really interesting learning curve. It's a lot more challenging than I think a lot of people might understand. It's highly, highly data dependent. The quality of the data, the veracity of the data, the amount of data, the use case of that data. And then all the protocols around managing that data is incredibly important. So it's probably not as easy for people to adopt, but I think the world's getting to a point now where they're going, you've got no choice. You have to start plugging in these large language models into your own bespoke data sets and using that in your own tools and so on. So definitely has been an awesome learning curve. Just recently exited that business.
Well done. So you're in a fascinating kind of cross-section, I suppose, where you have a deep understanding of brand and strategy, but also AI.
Yeah.
And that probably gives you a pretty unique view on the world of business and what opportunities lay ahead.
Yeah.
What are you seeing is going to be the next sort of trend in this space?
Well, I think and this is largely where the next business is going, is AI brings one component of solutions to business, but there's still many other solutions that only human beings can do.
Yep.
Consulting will be largely challenged by AI.
What do you mean by that?
I think just the vast amount of information that you'll be able to query AI on gives you the ability to answer certain questions that you otherwise would have to speak to
an expert
on.
Yep. Okay.
However, at least for the near future, AI doesn't really have a very strong ability to interpret the room. If you're sitting amongst many people or even just talking to one person, to understand not only the context, the direct context of what you're telling me, but also the peripheral context around that the AI maybe is not being prompted on or fed through.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Human beings have an incredible ability to use intuition beyond sometimes their own knowledge
or perception
that the AI might actually have. And I think where we're moving to is a space where we can in real time blend AI with experts. I mean, true experts. And that's what we want to try and do with Legion. That's the next business, by the way.
Legion, yep.
Yeah. Legion's really the culmination of really my experience. I mean, it's essentially a Venn diagram of brand, product, and AI. And it comes from the concept of, and really my problem statement has always been for this business, is that you can have a great brand strategy and a great direction for a business. But for for the most part, brand consultancies only execute brand strategies through brand communication, creative marketing, etc., etc.
Yep.
Whereas sometimes the way to actually bring that brand to life might be a digital product. It might be a new service design. It might be a new AI solution. It might be
some form of customer experience. Which communicates that brand and creates that feeling.
And right now AI can't design that. I mean, it can give you the steps and something that's basic, but certainly nothing that is beyond just a playbook type of answer. So where we're going with Legion is to be able to parachute in to clients looking to grow their brands, parachute in experts in these various fields, be they a behavioral economist or a brand strategist or a mechatronics specialist or a digital product engineer, all with the view of creating pure diversity.
Yep.
And what we're finding right now is that clients are really battling with innovation internally. They effectively have their day jobs.
You're right. Yeah.
And they often look to outside advice, but also outside execution. And the challenge at the moment is really, at the end of the day, is the cost of trying to bring on a huge consulting firm to try and run a massive project at millions and millions of dollars. Whereas there's probably,
or trying to implement it internally where they're extremely time poor or just trying to keep their chin above water as they are.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot more value to be had when you're able to bring a diverse set of thought into a very short period of time to give both direction on a particular problem. You might be a bank, and that bank has a problem targeting their clients at the right stage, or their products at the right stage of their client's life cycle.
Yep.
It might be an insurer with a challenge of client retention or churn. It also might just be pure product parity across a bunch of different industries. And what we're finding is that because of our diverse leads, we're able to bring these people together and create that real diverse thinking to come up with something new. And we've done that already in the past. We're looking to do that many more times. And that is what I would call starting a digital product in a manual way, and something that's not scalable and making it scalable. And not to give away everything, you'll know more, but we're moving that into a global digital product platform. We're comprised a number of leads in Sydney, Perth, London, New York, Buenos Aires, most recently today, Adelaide.
Yep.
And it's going to be really an exciting time. We're doing two things at the same time. We're doing the manual analog version of what is probably a form of parachute in consulting.
Yep.
While at the same time building a platform that is going to be, I think, quite groundbreaking. You know, it's not a P2P platform like a Upwork or a TopTail or anything like that. It's more a very structured, well thought out process that a team will take you through different stages and different modules of how to grow your brand in different areas.
Yep. So you can almost like assemble your own team of Avengers to go and tackle your own, unique business challenge that you're looking to tackle. Yeah.
Well, you're in Legion, really.
Legion, that's right. No, it's definitely super exciting and something I'm stoked to be a part of as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important to mention. You know, we've got all these specialist leads, and thank you for joining the team, so to speak. It's great to have somebody like you to really drive the growth marketing components of that. And we've got some big ambitions. We've certainly set our targets pretty high in terms of the clients that we want to create value for. Early days, but we'll be getting there soon, hopefully.
You're starting, something fresh again.
Yeah.
Is that something that gets you? I mean, it's obviously exciting, but it's something it seems like in your career you run towards as well, being in that genesis moment.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I love creating new businesses. Even within September AI, every time we did a product, an AI product, the the process of creating the product, the conceptualization of that brand itself, even at a product level.
Yeah.
The systems around that, all of that. That drives me. It really, really does get me going.
Yeah.
So moving into Legion, this is a big endeavor. It's a big one. It's got a number of working parts. It's the platform itself is going to be quite robust and again on enterprise grade level. I'm excited. I won't say that I'm not nervous. I've always been a little bit nervous with each one of the businesses.
You wouldn't be doing something right if you're ultimately comfortable.
Yeah. And I've also at the same time, within Perth, I'm lucky enough to have these types of networks with yourself. I've also sit on the board of a really, really good pure brand agency here called Ideology. Look them up if you haven't seen.
Yep.
They hopefully will be in the fray as well. Very good business at helping companies understand who they are and what they stand for.
Yeah, they do some really cool work.
Yeah, they do some great work, and they're really good at articulating that. So I'm involved in there at a board level. So yeah, keeping myself busy, but like I say, Legion's the focus, and it's onwards and upwards, as they say.
How do you envisage we'll cut through that busy market of the brand agencies and innovation labs and all of the other options that big companies have to them to build these new initiatives internally? What's the unique factor that's going to cut through, do you think?
I'll tell you the one part, and I won't tell you the other part.
Okay. All right, that's cool. We'll leave a bit of mystery.
The one part's more of a commercial model and then the way of working with clients, which is more an operating model that we'll make bespoke.
Yep.
Which I don't think the traditional service-based model of any firm or agency or consultancy can really compete with. It doesn't make too much sense for them to be able to pivot to that. So I'll sort of keep that one up my sleeve.
Yep.
I think the other is the ability for clients to know the zone where they might have an opportunity of a challenge, and then to be able to, with our guidance, self-select some of the really, really class-leading individuals around the world. We've got some, without a doubt, some of the most awarded individuals in their respective fields to come in and advise and give some real insight and not just do the babbling consulting thing.
Yeah,
so
some global expertise, which you otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Yeah, and also in a working relationship that doesn't bleed clients of ridiculous multi-million-dollar consulting contracts.
Love it. You're someone who thinks pretty deeply about the impacts of AI and understands probably better than most people what this latest iteration on the technology means.
Yep.
What would you say to people who are concerned about, that this new technology is going to change people's jobs or take them away from them, or put people out of business?
Not to be a fearmonger, but people should be concerned. There are a lot of scenarios where certain roles and certain jobs will be totally made redundant. There's other scenarios where AI will be, if used right, will be an accomplice and a partner to, say, for example, I'm a designer. If used right, it can help you do more work faster.
Yeah, for sure.
And hopefully deliver to a client the same value that you would have done in a longer period of time, and hopefully be able to have a bigger margin and more time to yourself, really.
Yep.
So long as that, stay away from, try and move away from time-based billing.
Yes,
just
definitely.
Deliver on value.
Yeah. Alex, our designer, has been frothing on the new Firefly that's just been released by Adobe this week. Yeah.
Some of the stuff in Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and Firefly, it's really some of the amazing stuff.
Yep.
I think the reality is that people need to look at AI relative to their own context and their own job, and to see where they are potential risks, and then to either work with it or work beyond it. What I mean is work more into the human side of what AI can't do, some of the conceptual stuff that AI can't do just yet. It's the printing press again,
Sure.
There was a time where hundreds and probably thousands of jobs got totally eradicated with the printing press.
Yeah. All the people sitting there handwriting out copies of books.
Exactly.
Didn't need to do it anymore.
But I think there was a time when it challenged people to look beyond that and go, well, now I need to expand my skills or look at doing something slightly differently.
Yeah.
That's probably the soft version of the way that I would describe how people could be concerned about it.
That it's a multiplier of existing effectiveness. It makes us faster and more efficient as opposed to replacing us altogether.
Well, yeah, to a certain degree. I think there's probably a little bit more of the idea of there are going to be certain things, certain jobs being totally redundant.
What comes to mind?
Call centers.
Yep.
Absolutely, call centers. A lot of development, traditional dev,
software
dev, elements largely of the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pipeline between marketing, concept generation, and marketing delivery, the entire value chain is going to be automated through an algorithm of delivering to the right person at the right time while having generative advertising content automatically developed.
Yeah. It's interesting because a year or two ago, the conventional wisdom was that the creatives were going to be the ones that would benefit from AI because those are the things which computers couldn't do,
I wrote an article about that. Yeah.
But it's been flipped on its head in a way.
Well, to a certain degree, yes and no. Even if you look at something like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, for example, and you go back to a time in advertising where there were systems called Freehand and Adobe and all these sort of design programs. Before that, there was effectively letter writing and people were scamping things on pieces of paper. And then when computers came about, they thought, oh my God, now we can do something that took us 3 weeks and we can do it in 2 days.
Yeah.
So everyone was concerned with that shift. And I think now moving into the use of AI, it's just really speeding that same process up. But nothing's changed from the 40s or probably more in the 50s and 60s till today that requires somebody like an art director or a creative director to conceptualize the scenario first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we now simply will call a prompt to AI, whereas beforehand that would have been a brief into a art and copy team to go and conceptualize what that ad would look like. But it's that idea.
Yeah.
It's not, AI is not just going to suddenly create a unicorn flying on a rainbow and selling you Pampers baby diapers. It just does not make sense. So you need that conceptual link between what is needed for the consumer, what the brand stands for, and what could be an interesting idea, and then using the AI to bring it to life.
But the nature of generative AI is if you did try to ask it to come up with ideas for a unicorn on a rainbow, it would probably come up with things which are iterations on what's been done before because it's all learned on things that have been created in the past, right? So it's going to probably, in a way, like cool, if we were to rely on it for creativity, creativity because it's going to just be more of the same porridge.
It is to a certain degree, but again, it comes down to this: what is the input? What is the prompt? What is the thing that gets it to do something?
Yep.
That's my soft view on AI.
Okay, what's your hard view?
My harder view is it's a legitimate concern for humanity, really. If you, not today, but if you think about this in 10, 20, possibly closer to 20 years, where our data is almost totally proliferated across all systems.
Yep, everything is universally accessible.
And AI will be able to hack any other system that you could think of if it needed to. Dare I say wanted to. Its ability to effectively create what's called a digital twin of yourself means that I could be having a video call with you on Zoom. It will look like you. It'll act like you. It'll have your same mannerisms. It'll have your same thoughts because it's learnt. It's learnt many times because you've been on many calls and
all been on many YouTube videos.
Yep. But more than that, your digital twin is actually better than you, because it's not just you as a human being with your collective knowledge in your brain that you own right now and you have access to and sometimes forget things and sometimes don't and so on. Your digital twin now has access to all the other information that is on ChatGPT, every other large language model, every other system, and we're at the beginning of that. So we need to get comfortable with the idea of, can we live with our own digital twins working alongside us? And then what do we do? What makes us happy as human beings? What fulfills us? Maybe the silver lining is that we find time to just be more human beings.
That's the hopeful angle, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other wild thing is, are we already living in a simulation? And like that possibility becomes increasingly like plausible, like, from 0.0001% to maybe 0.00%, 1%, that like you can imagine that is possible, right? That we are all living in this lucid dream. Or is that getting a little bit full on?
No, I don't think it's getting full on. I mean, I know, the world talks about simulations, and I think there's actually multiple perspectives of what a simulation might actually be. Some people just think it's just one of millions of different types of computer programs that are, and we're just entities within those. And some of them speak at a more spectral or astral version of universal metaverses. I just think we need to live in the now.
Big time.
What else can we do? If we are in it, we're in it, we're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, recently both of us became parents the last few years, and I think that definitely gives you a different perspective on what life is about.
Yep.
And being able to, in a way, like relive your own childhood, through your kids and see the world anew through a new person on this world's perspective is pretty cool, and it gives me a lot of hope, I think, for what the future holds too.
I'm a little bit worried for my son. I don't want him to be this dopamine connected to a device person.
It's funny,
I will spend as much time as I can just trying to get more tangible things, sitting on a beach, carving something, making a fire,
They do say, like the Silicon Valley parents are the last people that want a device in their kids' hands and a screen in front of their kids. Steve
Jobs was the main one that said that,
And, I'm certainly going to hold out as long as I can for my kids, but I think there's a inevitability about it.
Yep.
If you're going to be part of the new economy, you're going to need to know how to, you're going to need to be tech savvy to some extent.
Absolutely.
Or are you? Maybe you just need to get good at prompting an AI using your voice.
You could also go live in a tree house somewhere if you wanted to.
Yeah. What is the number one most important thing for me to be doing right now, rather than the 12 things which aren't actually critical to pushing yourself forward?
It sounds probably like the most simple piece of advice, and most obvious really, is that people like to get stuck into building something. I want to build the product. I want to build the roadmap. I want to build the systems around my business. I want to set up my brand. I want to set up all the ways that I'm going to market. And they probably only leave 5% of that time talking to friends and family about, hey, I've got an idea about something. And I would caution people to say, change that proportion of 95% of building something and 5% of letting a close friend say, yeah, I think it's a cool idea, to 80% of the time talking to customers before you've got a product. Because a lot of people don't realize that talking to customers, and that 80% of that time that you spend talking to your prospective customers in future, you're actually already marketing a product to them.
Right, yes.
But you're getting the most important feedback that helps you design something that they'll actually use.
Yeah.
So don't market your product after you've got a product.
Mm-hmm.
Market it before you've got a product. And use marketing and learning as
the same thing.
The same thing.
Well said. I don't think I've heard it articulated that well before.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, mate. I think you're bang on, and I think we get excited by the creating something tangible. We get the dopamine hit every time we ship a product, or every time we write a line of code or design a new graphic or a screen.
Yeah,
and that there are a lot of personalities who, fire up about that.
Yeah.
And it's different personalities are attracted to different things, but
Yep.
the only way that you're actually going to have impact on building that, on doing that process, is if you have that deep understanding of the problem that you're solving for people.
Yeah.
And the only way you can get that information is by having good quality conversations with those people that you're trying to help.
Totally agree. Yeah. And I think a lot of times sometimes the problem seems very obvious, and and as a founder, you're totally convinced by it because you've, in some way or the other, have seen it and you've experienced it yourself. But sometimes there are angles to the problem that still need to be really thought through, and that might affect your user experience or your commercial model or your entire approach to product design. It's not just always about the core problem. It's about the peripheral issues that run with that problem. There might be a barrier to entry for a client. The client might have a big problem, but might have no way to actually engage a product because they've got a procurement issue.
Yep.
Or
all these little subtle 5 or 10 degree things that you can only discover either once you have the product in the hands of the customer, and by that stage maybe it's too late.
Yeah.
Or through that discovery.
I can't stress this enough. Talk to your prospective customers as much as you can, all day, every day, and that for me is probably, I'd say, the biggest piece of advice I could give. I think the other thing I'd probably say is it is totally natural to have very, very big highs and very, very big lows. Mm-hmm. And when you're at your very lowest and you feel like you've been knocked down by too many naysayers or challenges on getting something done or cost or finance or whatever it is, just push yourself a little bit further, because that's what makes an entrepreneur. Just push yourself a little bit further so that you can get back to the upward cycle of that curve. I've seen that in my life. I've been, I guess, technically an entrepreneur for 14 years now, and it has been very big highs and good paydays and very, very lows.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to just know that it does get better the more information you provide yourself and the more you push through. It's probably also a comment to say sometimes you need to just kill it when you need to kill it. Sometimes an idea should be killed, but
you'll know when it's the right time to push through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. All right, mate. Last thing that we do here on Weird Growth is show and tell time.
Show and tell. Which
is where we ask what's your favourite gadget, tool, app, book, or anything that's changing your life at the moment that you couldn't live without.
I don't know if it's because I've gotten older. I'm particularly old at 39, but back in my sort of early brand advertising days, I'd go Red Bull, coffee, Red Bull, coffee, Red Bull, coffee, Red Bull. And then you'd put yourself in hospital with stomach ulcers and, all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I think self-care is really important. So the tool that I use at the moment, and a commitment that I've made to myself, is to get in the ocean every morning.
Love it.
In summer, that's a lot easier. The sun's up.
Yep.
In winter, it's a lot more difficult when it's like this morning, 12 degrees, and raining, and
which is balmy in some parts of the world, but here in Perth, it's pretty bitter.
I must stress that's degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
Celsius, sorry. It's hard. It's a weird way. You start your day doing something quite hard. I found quite interesting. You jump into very, very cold water. At least for me, I'm not I don't have much polar bear fat on me. That's for sure.
Yeah. Not like me.
And jump into some cold water, spend 5 minutes in there, 10 minutes, get out, and your day's refreshed. Another tool on that is saunas has been quite a big deal for me, just to get the blood flowing. And then apps tools, I love ClickUp. I'm addicted to ClickUp. Yeah, I think from being able to map out really complex problems and programs and so on, I just think it's getting better and better.
Yeah, I've seen it around a little bit more and been intrigued to try it out. What's the sort of...
Well, I would say it probably lives in the space of, I'm by no stretch of the imagination a project manager. I'm a terrible project manager, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
It's a mix between a type of Asana, Monday.com, and more document management system, CRM, and so on. I think it's just one of those products. I think you can see that they're just innovating incredibly quickly. They've now introduced AI into that space. It's helping map out my world really.
Yep.
So yeah, app wise, I would say ClickUp. What's another app? I use quite a few apps, to be honest with you. Can't think of the other ones. Just
don't we all? Yeah, no, we're going to check out ClickUp. That sounds really worthwhile. We stitch together multiple SaaS products to run the agency here, but Asana's tends to be at the center of it because it's about getting things done and tasks.
Yep.
But yeah, if we could have something which also builds in a CRM and a document management system and, a team integration or team chat and things like that, it could be pretty wild.
Well, that's pretty much exactly what it does, yeah. Probably needs a little bit more work on the inbound pipeline side of things. Yep. You can still pipe in, probably not as well as you would Asana and something like Pipeline.
To integrate with, say, Zapier?
There's Zapier sort of links, and there's I'm sure you can connect something like Pipedrive to that, which I would recommend for.
Yeah, I love Pipedrive.
For founders, smaller businesses at this stage, very simple, very easy to use, but also just modern CRM system.
Yep.
Go for that, I'd definitely say. And what else? Yeah, I use quite a few of them, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't dabble in the likes of Canva and all that. I'm not a designer or anything, but I do have a team that executes that kind of stuff.
It's funny, like as a guy who personally grew up on Adobe products, and Dreamweaver even way back in the day.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's been I've been dragged kicking and screaming when even for my personal things to do in Canva, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. I can just do this in a browser tab. Yeah. And it's 80% of the functionality that you could need. And I can show my mum how to do something, on it, and she can use it just as easily. So it's a lot better than the old word art in a Microsoft PowerPoint or something like that. And it's a lot easier to use. So I think
my wife, who is a traditional creative director, purist when it comes to brand design and so on, would be offended for me to say that Canva's great.
Yeah, should be mortified.
But
make sure she doesn't listen.
For startups that are hustling and getting it done quickly and getting it out there, I'd say use something like that. Yeah.
This has been awesome, mate. Thank you so much for being on Weird Growth. What's the final plug if anyone wants to learn more about you or Legion?
I think have a look at thelegion.au.
Yep.
We're in the process of, again, refining exactly what we're offering there. As per my example of spend a lot of time with clients, 80% of our time is now spent talking to clients and refining some of our offerings. We're looking at productizing a number of our offerings as opposed to making them consulting offerings. Things like AI deep dive workshops to explore how AI can apply to business. We do the same for digital products in business. We do the same for service design in business, and we do the same for brand design. So creating quite a number of products there, or at least programs is probably a better word. Have a look at that. Jump in there. Give us a call if you're interested and want to get involved. And that's about it.
By all means.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for being on Weird Growth. Really great chat. Learned heaps. And thank you all for being out there listening to Weird Growth. Please do subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. Please leave a review. If you're watching on Spotify as well, you should be able to see the video. If you're listening You might not notice, but there are 2 camera angles, and get involved, leave a comment, have a like. Really appreciate everyone out there listening. Thank you again, Brad.
Thanks for having me.
But until next time, I've been Cam Sinclair. This is Weird Growth. Bye-bye.